Is it recording?
It's moving.
Oh shit, it is.
What the? God damn it. Welcome to another episode of Supernaturally Speaking. I am Troy.
I'm Justin.
Please excuse our initial shock and awe at the fact that our magical box machine here is recording us. How was your week, Justin?
It was good, actually.
Do anything special for Madre?
Yeah, we hung out with her and we went shopping, stuff like that.
Oh, everything a mother loves is shopping.
Yeah.
Shopping with your baby boy.
But yeah, so far, I mean, I've had just about a week off.
Yeah, that's right. Schedule change. How are you enjoying the new schedule?
Well, I went from front half to back half, so basically Sunday through Wednesday to Wednesday through Saturday. And so I have this gap right now because I'm switching from the front to the back.
You do seem much more relaxed right now. You do.
So she said.
Yeah. Now, are you thinking you'll be okay? You think you're going to enjoy the back half schedule?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, nothing much changes for me because my schedule was pretty sweet before, but I mean, I always work Saturdays, so.
No. As I said, I know you used to pick up a lot of shifts, so.
Yeah. So I get Tuesdays off now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay. Well,
how about you? What's new with you?
Nothing big. Just keep myself busy at work, enjoying all the lovely students coming up nowadays.
Are you working on any new projects?
Yeah, I am doing one project. I got commissioned to do a Mother's Day gift. It is a little late, but it was also kind of handed off to me last minute. So
nice.
Ended up having to order another tool or two that because some of the ones I had weren't quite getting the job done that I needed. Mm-hmm. A couple of them were I had like little sandpaper rolls for my Dremel, and I went to go kind of clean up and shape a little bit of the steel, and yeah, it literally just ripped through the sandpaper. And I was like, oh shit. So I had to drop a little bit of a pretty penny to get a particular item to help me with that. But yeah, then I've got that project. I've got another one I'm working on for a couple, some friends that I missed something. I was unable to do something that I really wanted to with them. Mm-hmm. So this is sort of kind of a late sort of like I feel bad, and it's not like a pity thing. It's just like I want to do something nice for them, so I finally have an opportunity to do so. Nice. So I'm going to be doing that here shortly, and then have Kevin's order I need to talk to him about once I get that going. Once I get these other two projects cleared away here. So, I got a lot of projects lined up here pretty soon. So
that's good. It's keeping you busy.
Yeah, no arguments on my end. So all right. Well, what have you got for us today, Justin?
I've got a little story that I found. Nothing major, but kind of segues into our topic tonight.
Okay.
I found this on some 12 terrifying ghost stories you shouldn't read alone.
Well,
after I read damn near all of them, and I think I only liked one of them.
Okay.
The rest of them seem kind of garbage.
Yeah, and that's the tough part about looking at that sort of stuff online, because again, it's the whole 10 most this, top 12, top whatever. They're very subjective, and on top of that, some of them are pretty outlandish to the point where you look at it and you're just like, really? You couldn't try harder to just, give us something a little bit better?
Yeah.
Especially when, unfortunately, anything can be found online.
So this one is titled The Crib Shadow.
Oh, God. Babies in shadows? Okay. This should be good.
I was babysitting my niece once while I was staying at my brother's place, and they had the baby camera set up so I could see her on the little TV it came with. I was studying and started dozing off when I heard some whispering and realized it was coming from the monitor. I initially thought it was some feedback or something, but when I looked at the TV, there was a dark shadow near my niece's crib. I have never been more terrified in my life, but the shadow was clearly there where it had not been before. I ran to my niece's room and looked around and saw nothing. But I took her the hell out of there, and I went back to the TV, and the shadow was clearly gone. I told my brother what happened, and he pulled me aside and told me not to mention it to my sister-in-law because she'll freak out. But that he had seen that same thing several times now with the same whispering. They stayed in that house for about 4 more years, and when my niece was just learning to talk, she would tell her mom about her special friend.
Oh, Jesus.
To this day, it scares the shit out of me. When they moved out, my brother told me my niece had become inconsolably sad because she would miss her friend. Her mom would tell her she could bring him along, but all she would say was that he couldn't leave the house. We have never, to this day, told her about that damn shadow, and she apparently never saw it.
I'll tell you right now, if I were the husband and I heard my wife said, "Oh, you could bring," yeah, no, you can't bring. You want friends? You can make them at the new place. You ain't bringing this one. Oh my God!
Don't put that on me, Ricky Bobby.
Yeah. Don't you put that evil on me. I agree with the husband in the sense that don't say nothing to the wife because, sorry ladies, I know we got females listening. We do have some female listeners, sorry, but you guys will panic over something that, yeah, that's some creepy shit. But here's the other issue too. Nothing has necessarily happened yet to make you really question what's going on. Yeah, it's creepy. But if you were to freak out, it's okay. I guess the best way to explain it would be when you have like a toddler who falls over and like scrapes his elbow and then looks at you.
Uh-huh.
If you freak out, the toddler's going to freak out.
Yep.
Okay? If the wife were to freak out over the shadow, not only would it probably freak the child out, but it would probably, if there was a reason for the shadow to get aggravated by that, you would only make it worse.
Yeah.
Because as of right now, as far as you know, it doesn't sound like the child was really exhibiting any different kind of, attitude changes. Nothing. There's no any kind of harm.
Yeah.
To the child. So I mean, at this point, it's one of those things where it's kind of like, okay, let's just kind of leave it alone for now, and if things start to get out of control, then we'll say it. Now, I know we've probably got some listeners going, well, Troy, that's how things get out of control, is you don't handle it when it happens. You know what, though? I get what you're saying, but this is one of those situations where, okay, let's say you did try to be proactive about this and preventative. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do?
I'd just leave.
Exactly. Okay, there you go.
And then you get like, what if it follows you?
Yeah. You've got the following. What if you decide to get a priest to bless the house and that doesn't do it? Because I've seen and read a lot that sometimes a simple blessing of the house doesn't do it.
Right.
It really kind of depends. Like, for a good example is if you've got spirit. Let's say you've got a spirit situation where it's the spirit of a Native American. Mm-hmm. A priest isn't going to be able to get rid of them. Mm-hmm. You've got to actually contact the tribe that particular spirit could have belonged to. You have to get in contact with a shaman from that tribe, and they have to do the ritual.
Yeah.
It's not as cut and dry as a lot of people may think it is. You can't just splash a little bit of holy water in some corners of the house, fucking light some sage on fire and move about the day, and all of a sudden everything's just right as rain.
Yeah.
But there was no clear harm, so I personally think the husband did the right thing and just was like,
we're just not gonna say it.
Yeah, just let's not make this into something it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
So pretty creepy.
Oh, but yeah. Kids and ghosts creep the crap out of me. So.
Oh yeah, well, especially if it's kid ghosts too. That's even worse because now you're running into demonology situations because they like to pretend to be kids just to lure unwitting ghost hunters and whatnot into the situation. So, excuse me. Damn. Pardon me. Okay, so ironically enough, as we discussed, the topic I chose for the evening was the theory. I actually have two. We're gonna see how it goes. I don't know if I'll get to both of them, but I'm gonna at least get to this first one. Is the theory behind shadow people. Okay, now
nice.
A lot of people, this is I honestly can say I think this is probably one of the most commonly seen like spiritual entities I think I've seen or heard people talk about. Because it's always that shadow out of the corner of your eye, that movement that looks like it's always something along those lines, and I think they're fairly common. So I'm gonna read a little bit here and then kind of talk about like some of my experiences with it and some of the things I've heard or indirectly been a part of regarding shadow people. So, a shadow person is an unknown creature that has been around for a number of centuries. They are thought to be a type of demon or a ghost, and some would even say it's just the figment of the imagination. Mm-hmm. Okay, but I'm still trying to find it. But there is a theory out there that if you have a strong enough belief in something, that it actually conjures it into reality. I'm still trying to find that theory because I can't remember what the actual theory was called. But I do plan on doing an actual episode on that theory if I can find it. So, and the crazy thing about the shadow people are that there's almost it's interesting in the sense that there is a split in the community that do believe in them. Mm-hmm. I've noticed, and this is only recently I've noticed it because I always kind of viewed them as like a paranormal, a spirit of sorts. But there are some in the community that believe they are actually a cryptid, so that they actually are a living creature.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's very different. I didn't realize that there were those who believed that until recently.
Mm-hmm. Is this kind of like the Earth is flat versus Earth is round? Sort of. I'm waiting. Because it's almost like the battle of who was the better captain on the Enterprise. Picard or freaking. These entities or horrific creatures usually appear at night. They are truly terrifying to those who are unlucky enough to encounter them. Most shadow people disappear within a moment while others linger for some time and sometimes even return many times over the course of a victim's life. These creatures are also known to sit on a person's chest and choke them and take their air away. So they're homicidal, nothing too bad. The person who wrote this, a gentleman by the name of Frank Statler, kind of talks a little bit about his personal experience. 3 times in my life I've been held down at night just between waking and dreaming. Each experience was terrifying and frightening. I could not scream and could not breathe, although my terror was not, as far as I know, at the hands of the dreaded shadow people. It is an experience similar to what other victims have described. A lot of people, and this is where we get kind of a little more into like the science of it, because the science community does attribute the theory of shadow people to an actual scientific state, and that's known as the medical phenomenon known as sleep paralysis. Mm-hmm. And doctors and scientists both claim it is the origin of shadow people. It's a form of parasomnia said to be harmless, but don't tell that to the people affected. Yeah. Shadow people were almost unheard of until they were mentioned by a listener on AM Coast to Coast, a popular nighttime radio program. Suddenly people started talking about shadow people and the Hat Man and the Cloak Man. Now, this is also another one that kind of I just recently discovered. These are 2 like commonly known shadow people that have a trait that's specific to them, which again, as it states, the Hat Man and the Cloak Man. Uh-huh. Again, I'd never heard of them until recently. I always just knew them as shadow people. Oh, okay. So, it's amazing how many people were affected by and haunted by these creatures. The thought that they were alone in their suffering from these horrific beings. Let's see here. So the worldwide phenomenon, let's see here. Different parts of the world have their own kind of shadow people, and so you can see that it actually is a worldwide phenomenon. In Scandinavia, shadow people are called mares.
A mare is a woman who is damned and at night travels without the victim's knowledge to sit on the chest of her fellow villagers and steal their breath.
Huh.
Okay. Which, the fact that it's specifically female creeps me out too.
Yeah.
So.
All I think of is Top Gun.
Top Gun? Jesus. God.
I mean, it's just the song, but that's it.
Yeah. In the country of Newfoundland and in the American states of South Carolina and Georgia, the shadow person is known as a hag, and I've heard this one. People thus affected describe a feeling of terror and a feeling of breathlessness, like a very heavy weight pressing on their chest, and they are unable to move. This is notable as being called hag-ridden. You know, the hag's riding you, you know.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I think, I don't know if riding my chest or riding something else is really where I want that hag, so... in Provincetown, Massachusetts, in the year of 1939, there was a creature known as the Black Flash that terrorized the villagers of that burg for around 9 years. Okay, I tried to keep cool and kosher, and then you started laughing. So you know, you're breaking my concentration. Goddamn.
Is this Marvel trying to be PC?
I guess maybe. You know, I knew that's where it was gonna go too. I knew it. God damn it. School children were the first to report the Black Flash. Oh God, they were. Okay, I want to emphasize this the next line that's following up is what is written, not my words. I want to premise with this, okay? They were molested by this creature as they were walking home from school. After 9 years, the sightings stopped and haven't returned. So I don't know why he chose that particular word, but yeah. On the island of Fuji, it is called Kana Tavoro, being eaten by a demon. Sometimes the spirit is a dead relative. People that witness an attack often say Kanya Kanya, which is eat eat. They want, if you can believe it or not, to prolong the attack so that they can ask the spirit or dead relative questions like, why did you come back? Okay, so apparently the people on the island of Fuji are like... Sounds like they're almost like sacrificing their own neighbors just so they can talk to a dead person. Which, at that point, let's be honest, you're just rude. You're interrupting dinner.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah. What is the purpose of these shadow creatures? What do they want from us? Is it our souls? Do they feed off of pain and suffering and fear? That's a little over the top, buddy. Some say that they are ghosts. Personally, I believe they are something much more horrible. Either a monster from the very depths of hell or perhaps something conceived in the tortured psyche of the human being it appears to. Either way, shadow people have been on this planet for many centuries and will most certainly be around for many years to come. Alright, dude. I did kind of like that up until those last parts. I think he was reaching for some sort of showmanship there. So, let's see here. The shadow people have actually been discussed on many different TV shows. Many different paranormal shows. If you've seen any decent amount of like ghost hunting shows, then you're guaranteed to have seen at least an episode or two regarding shadow people.
Right. Oh, okay.
Because they are pretty common. We have, let's see here. So it does talk about that Coast to Coast AM late night radio talk show. The first time the topic of shadow people was discussed at length on the show was April 12th, 2001, when host Art Bell interviewed Native American elder Thunder Strikes. Which, that's a pretty fucking badass name, I'm sorry. Who is also known as Harley Swift Deer Regan.
Oh my gosh.
Listeners were encouraged to submit drawings of shadow people that they had seen, and a large number of these drawings were immediately shared publicly on the website. Let's see here. Again, a lot of them are claiming that it's as if they were jumping or sitting on their chests trying to choke them. Which, with that being said, too, that also does kind of lend credence to the sleep paralysis theory.
Yeah.
So it's we can't completely rule out the fact that this could just be an actual physiological phenomenon.
I've, I listen to a bunch of other podcasts, and one of them is the Crab Feast, and
the Crab Feast.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good show. Well, one of the comedians, because they're both comedians. And
okay.
One of the comedians was talking about doing a show up in, I think it was like in Arrowhead or in Big Bear area.
Oh, locally, okay.
Yeah. And they were staying at one of the like cabins, hotels up there. And he was saying, I mean, obviously I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly what episode it was, but he's basically saying that like he was asleep with his wife and felt somebody sit on him, and he couldn't move, he couldn't do anything, couldn't say anything. And then when he did tell somebody about it, they're like, oh, that's Big Ron, or whatever the hell his name was. Like, oh,
so it's a common thing.
That's the guy that's on that floor. Like, he died in that room or something like that. But obviously I'm butchering the story, but check it out on the Crab Feast. Give him a 5-star rating. Anyway,
but no, that's interesting, because again, that's the other tough part. I mean, this could very well be it could be both. It could be it could be, some people could be experiencing sleep paralysis, and others could actually be experiencing shadow people. The tough part is going to be trying to differentiate which one is which. Right. Because I'm not saying that it's purely one or the other. I think it is a combination of the two. Though for me, the tough part is, if it is sleep paralysis, how does that explain the sighting of shadow people? Right. During those times. Now, maybe there's something I haven't come across yet on here that will explain that, but that's the part that I look at going, okay, I understand the theory and the concept of sleep paralysis. I understand it exists. I mean, because I've experienced it a few times in my lifetime, where it's just I can see around what's going on, but I can't really move, and it takes me a minute to finally kind of break out of it. I haven't seen shadow people at that time, but I've been in that situation. But let's see here. Although participants in online discussion forums devoted to paranormal and supernatural topics describe them as menacing, other believers and paranormal authors do not agree whether shadow people are either evil, helpful, or neutral. And some even speculate that shadow people may be the extra-dimensional inhabitants of another universe. Now
that would be cool.
That would be, and I can actually, I would venture to put some of my money on that possibility. Because I do believe in parallel universes. I believe ours is not the only one. I believe there are other ones that run. I believe new ones are made every day by the choices we make. Because throughout every day we are presented with multiple choices, sometimes even two. So the minute we choose one, I believe another universe splits off as if we had made the other decision, and where that goes. So I think we have like an infinite number of universes and parallel realities.
So, I'm shouting out another podcast, but Joe Rogan, one of my favorite podcasts.
Joe.
Right? Now listen, he had Neil deGrasse Tyson on.
Neil is something else in a good way.
And he explained, he dumbed it down for us, but he explains how all of that works, and how there are bigger numbers than infinity, and like you just got to listen to him explaining, because I'm not going to do it justice, but he actually does explain like what they've come up with as far as like how that works, and how the infinite times of like this conversation is happening and all of that, and how exactly what you were saying, like one decision breaks off into a whole nother but this exact moment is happening an infinite number of times, over and over and over again, with no change, and there's just so that's check cool. out
I'll have to check that one out.
Joe Rogan Experience.
He's an experience
with Neil deGrasse Tyson. You can get dumbed down version for that as well.
Yeah. Let's see here. Several physiological and psychological conditions can account for reported experiences of shadowy shapes seeming alive. Okay, here we go. A sleep paralysis sufferer may perceive and the beginning quote, shadowy or indistinct shape, end quote, approaching them when they lie awake, paralyzed, and become increasingly alarmed. A person experiencing heightened emotions, such as while walking alone on a dark night, may incorrectly perceive a patch of shadow as an attacker. Okay, so that really doesn't explain... That says it can happen, but doesn't really explain how it happens.
Right.
During sleep paralysis, maybe I think I would have expected an explanation along the lines of, well, during sleep paralysis, the brain releases a certain chemical reaction that causes slight hallucinations. That I would have been like, okay, that explains it during those times. But this just basically says people see it. Some people see it, which is what this whole thing is talking about. Okay. Here's a good one. Many methamphetamine addicts report the appearance of shadow people after prolonged periods of sleep deprivation. Okay, we can safely assume that is pure hallucination.
Yeah.
Drug-induced as well.
That and the sleep deprivation. Really,
exactly. Psychiatrist Jack Potts suggests that the methamphetamine usage adds a conspiratorial component to the sleep deprivation hallucinations, which I agree. Absolutely.
I've seen it, yeah.
Yeah. One interviewed subject said that you don't see shadow dogs or shadow birds or shadow cars. You see shadow people, standing in doorways, walking behind you, coming at you on the sidewalk. These hallucinations have been directly compared to the paranormal entities described in folklore. Okay. So, if anybody's interested in maybe looking a little deeper, here's a couple of popular culture references. So, shadow people, described as shadow men, feature prominently in the 2007 novel John Dies at the End. When they kill a person, that person is retroactively erased from existence, and history is rewritten as though they were never born.
Oh.
That sucks. The 2013 horror movie Shadow People depicts a fictional sleep study conducted during the 1970s, in which patients report seeing shadowy intruders before dying in their sleep. The movie follows a radio host and CDC investigator who researched the story, and the story is claimed to be based on true events. Okay. In the online game Deep Sleep and its sequels, shadow people have existed since the dawn of the human race and lurk in lucid dreams. Players who realize that they are asleep can be paralyzed and possessed, and the character's dream self will turn into a shadow person.
Interesting.
Should have seen this one coming. An episode of the 1985 Twilight Zone series titled The Shadow Man dealt with a teenage boy who had a shadow person living under his bed. The episode portrayed the Shadow Man as fitting the Hat Man appearance, commonly ascribed to shadow people, and notably added to the shadow people mythology that shadow people can kill human beings but will not harm those whose beds they live under. That's a new one on me.
I gotta rewatch that.
Yeah. The 2015 documentary The Nightmare interviews people who suffer from sleep paralysis and attempts to stage their hallucinations with actors. Shadow people are mentioned several times and appear in the reenactments. Okay. A couple of key points you can also bring up to see if it'll bring up anything. Apparitional experience, night terrors, Jinn. 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 That's actually, those are, that's a spirit in the Middle Eastern cultures, I believe.
Okay.
So like Iran, Iraq, a lot of the jinn is considered a ghost.
Okay.
I don't know if this was misspelled or not. It says Brocken Spectre, Brocken Spectre. I don't know if it's supposed to be Brocken or broken. So I'm not 100% sure. Pareidolia, Pareidolia. No idea what that is.
Sure.
Yeah. And then this one I'm sure everybody's heard just in general pop culture, Slender Man.
Slender Man, yeah, I have heard that.
So, Those are a couple of things you guys can look into if you're interested in reading up a little more on just different pop culture shadow people. Couple of things I want to say just about that. One, it didn't even occur to me until I was reading this. There is one particular movie that does feature some sort of shadow entities, and it's an old movie. And I'm going to give you a hint because I'm going to sing the song that goes with that movie that everybody knows. Oh my!
Oh gosh!
The movie Ghost. Anybody who's seen that movie?
Yeah.
When somebody dies and they're going to hell, it's the shadow people that take them. And it didn't even occur to me until I was reading.
You know, it's funny because like you mentioned shadow people, and I'm pretty sure that was like one of the first when they pull some of when the shadow people come out.
Yeah. Especially
the window scene.
Oh God.
That's probably one of the first things that come to mind is the shadow stretching.
Yeah.
To get him. And
I'll tell you right now, when I first saw that movie, those parts, and I was young when I saw that movie, I was scared shitless when I saw that part, because not only that, but they made that fucking sound, that it's like, oh God. I'll tell you, any parents listening to this, if you want your kids to be straight and be cool and stay out of trouble, you threaten them with those things, okay? You say, this is what's going to happen if you keep being bad and you go to hell. I guarantee you it will straighten them out right quick. I promise you. Okay? But I've actually had some experiences regarding shadow people myself. At my last job, which you know what it was, I had to walk a park. I worked graveyards, so 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. And I had to walk a parking lot occasionally, and it had to do with vehicles. Well, as I got and it was a long parking lot, so when I get towards the back, there was one large floodlight on one corner, and then there was a motion light. But it's like as soon as the light would kick on first of all, it would kick on when nothing was in front of it. Yeah. So that was already creepy to begin with. I remember that. Yeah, but it wouldn't stay on for more than maybe 5 seconds. Mm-hmm. So if I had to park a vehicle at the very back and start walking back, a few times I'd be walking, and in this one corner we had some of the out-of-service vehicles that were either in a wreck or just waiting to be repaired, whatever. I would see a shadow darting between them, almost like it's trying to keep up with me. Yeah. So the first thing I did was, okay, where's my shadow? Make sure it's not my shadow being cast in that direction. And sure enough, it wasn't. My shadow was going the opposite direction. Then, and it had been known that we would occasionally have issues with homeless coming in and trying to camp out. Yeah. So I'd walk over there and I'd kind of call out like, hey, whoever's here, you need to leave. You're not supposed to be here. If you don't leave, I'm calling the cops. And my dumb ass would start walking over there to try and shoo him away if it was a person. Oh, I had my knife out and everything. I was ready. I would get over there and there'd be nothing there. And it's not, and it was clearly something I would describe as intelligent. Because as I saw it kind of moving between the vehicles, it looked like it was purposely like ducking and trying to like stay almost unseen. So that was my creepiest experience. Yeah. And that wasn't the first time. It happened a few times at that job. When we had moved to a new location, my partner suddenly started having sightings at that new location. And there was one point where we were going through some of the vehicles and cleaning them, and I was in one, and we always had them kind of lined up, and I was like 2 vehicles behind the one that she was in. And I had my headphones in. I was up in the vehicle cleaning, doing what I needed to do. And when I hopped out, I see her standing there looking around, looking at me with this like confused and almost kind of startled look. And usually when she stares at me, she's trying to talk to me. So I pulled my headphones out and I said, "What's up?" She goes, "Were you just standing here a second ago?" And I was like, "No, you just saw me get out of this vehicle." And she just started looking around really uncomfortable and kind of scared.
Yeah.
And I found out that she apparently had seen somebody standing at the back of the vehicle looking in where she was. And when she turned to look at him, it looked like that whoever was standing there had kind of quickly ducked around the corner of the vehicle. So she had hopped out to see who it was, thinking it was me messing with her.
Oh, okay.
And when she hopped out and didn't see anybody, and then asked me, and then I reminded her that you just watched me get out of this one, so it couldn't be me. She kind of had a bit of a panic attack. And then she also started noticing that those vehicles we would park in a line when we were done with them, ready to go out. And when we would park one at the very back, she would always ask me, you know, like, not always, I shouldn't say always, a lot of the times she would ask me to go with her. Because when I wouldn't, a lot of those times when I wasn't there or there wasn't enough light back there, like maybe one of the lamps went out, she'd be walking by, and off to the side you could see down in between all the vehicles, she would see somebody standing in between one of the vehicles.
Really?
Yeah. But when she'd stop and look again, nothing there. So I personally believe they exist.
Yeah.
What they are, I don't believe they're a physical creature. Let me put it that way. I don't believe they're an actual physical creature. I do believe they are. I believe they're spiritual in nature somehow. Now, whether they're good, bad, evil, neutral, whatever, I can't really say, because there's been no. Not only does no, it's a matter of who knows, but it's one of those things too where it's like, okay, well, we've got some documented cases where we got a lot where they're like trying to keep you from breathing and whatnot, but then we got like your story where it wasn't doing anything. It was just there.
Yeah.
And then there's always, and then if you really think about it too, if you really, I mean, this could be a stretch too, but if you think about it, there's the old saying that, when somebody's not, like if you meet up with a friend that you haven't seen in a few years and you can see that they're just different, a lot of people will say, well, you're a shadow of your former self.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just an interesting turn of phrase used for something like that.
Yeah.
And, if you really want to reach way out there, you could say, well, maybe that's what happens when somebody experiences something that's like detrimental in their life, that it changes their personality completely, and maybe that shadow of their former self almost splits off and becomes created.
Okay. Yeah.
I get that's a way out there theory, but it's something to think about, because, it's been shown that when major events like that take place in a person's life,
they
can change. Yeah. They themselves physically change. Yeah. So why couldn't it have an effect in another realm or in another side of life?
Are you familiar with so are you familiar with the comedian Sam Kinison?
Yes.
So when he was a kid, he got into, I believe it was a car accident, hit his head. He was the shyest kid, just the complete opposite of what you know.
Yeah.
After that accident,
he became the Sam everybody knows. Yeah. And then that's common in events like that.
And trauma can do that.
Yeah. Get hit in the right spot of the head. I mean, like, look at some people too. It's like, I've read stories where people have, near-death experiences where they, they realize they've lived a shitty life because they had a little bit of a taste of hell, according to them. And when they come back, they've completely 180'd. Not everybody, but But you're right. That trauma can change a person.
Yeah.
Which way it changes them, I don't know. So that was our shadow people section, and we do have time for me to go ahead and go on to my other.
So while you're pulling that stuff up, a little side note. So I had made like a page or whatever it's called on Reddit, and I had submitted the podcast to a couple subreddits, and and I had messaged one of them, which was a subreddit of ghost stories. Okay, so they messaged me back and really cool about it. Heck yeah, we'll have to check it out, blah, blah, blah. All right, cool. So from what I understand, there's like a bunch of rules and crap. Well, we got kicked off of one of them.
Really?
Yeah, it was a subreddit Creepy, and I guess one of their rules is you can't post the same thing more than once in a year or something like that. So they banned me from that subreddit. And
but what did we post the same?
Well, so when I post the new episode, it's the same picture, obviously.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't understand. It's not the same thing because it's a new.
So to me, it sounds like they just saw the picture was the same and decided, okay, no.
Yeah, that's what it seems like because there was no actual explanation. It was just like, please reread the rules and blah blah blah. You have been banned from this subreddit. Whatever.
But that's only that's like one. So these subreddits, and I'm not familiar with Reddit.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
So it almost sounds like it's like a separate blog type deal.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so we got kicked off of that one, but we're a part of other ones, though, right? Okay, so
I'm trying to make...
no disrespect to, what was it, Creepy? No disrespect to Creepy, but if you're not even going to look at the information, if you're just going to go off of a picture, then I think it's probably better we not be a part of your subreddit. Right. I appreciate you putting this up there initially, but if that's the case...
So that one was one of the ones that I just put it up there and was just like, well, it's already up. But the people that, subreddit Ghost Stories, or Real Ghost Stories, I think is what it's called, I messaged them and was just like, hey, I got kicked off of this one. What can I do to not get kicked off? Yeah. And so they were actually the really cool ones, is subreddit Ghost Stories, I believe. But so far I've posted on theirs a couple times. But I'm gonna try to figure out how to make our own subreddit, and we're on Twitter at SS Podcast 1, I think, because SS Podcast was taken already.
Okay.
So I think it's
what was that, Spetsnaz
or 17
podcast?
It's SS Podcast 17.
Okay.
Or at SS Podcast 17. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure this crap out.
Hey, you're the one who's going to handle this because you know social media way better than I do.
Next in line, I think, is Facebook page and then Instagram. So
I think those would be good. And again, maybe, like I said, snap a few pictures, get some stuff. That way they have at least a face to put with the names. Maybe even kind of discuss, maybe even on some of those do a little bio for each of us and on, where we stand, that sort of thing. I think that'd be kind of nice. That way anybody who wants a little more information on us, and that sort of thing. So any chance, by chance, any luck with listener stories coming through on the emails?
I haven't gotten anything. We do have a couple more followers.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome.
A few of them on Twitter.
Good.
But as far as the emails go, I haven't gotten anything. But I'm sure.
Yeah. No worries.
Wait to get to the right person. Yeah. But
hey, Rome wasn't built in a day.
That's true.
So it'll take some time.
I'm excited. Good. I'm excited to where this is going to go, and the future episodes that we have planned,
and the few some of the followers we do have that we actually do know in person. A couple of them have been very excited and happy to listen and have enjoyed the stories we've been sharing with them. So that's always a good thing, even whether it's a village or a city. We're here to bring this stuff, these interests of ours, to you, the listeners, and hopefully you guys are enjoying them as much as we are. So, thank you for that update. Actually, a lot of that I didn't even know. I do find it funny that we got booted off already.
I know. It was you have been banned from this subreddit. I'm like, shit.
Well, because you have that initial panic, and then all of a sudden you look and you're like, but I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Fuck yourself.
Yeah. Pretty much. Like I said, with all due respect, again, it is one of those things. If you're not willing to at least look and verify that it's not the same thing, then it's probably better that, you do your thing, we'll do ours.
In their defense, it did seem mostly like art stuff and articles and whatnot. So
Okay. So maybe we just weren't the type the type of edition they usually cater to, which is fair. That's fine.
But
Yeah. Okay. So the second topic I have is quite possibly, and actually I believe it is officially stated as the world's most haunted forest.
Ooh.
Okay. And it is called the Hoia-Baciu Forest. So anybody who wants to look at it, it's Hoia-Baciu Forest. And that is situated near Cluj-Napoca, Romania.
Ooh.
Covers about 250 hectares, which I'm assuming are acres. And it is referred to quite often as the Bermuda Triangle of Romania. It has a reputation for intense paranormal activity and unexplained events. Reports have included ghost sightings, unexplained apparitions, faces appearing in photographs that were not visible with the naked eye. And in the 70s, UFO sightings were reported.
Ooh, man, this is a jack of all trades.
And I've seen a few shows on this place. This place is even in those shows, this place is intense.
Yeah.
Visitors to the forest often report intense feelings of anxiety and the feeling of being constantly watched. Moreover, the local vegetation is somehow bizarre in appearance, like something out of a make-believe story with strangely shaped trees and unexplained charring on tree stumps and branches. Forest was named after a shepherd that disappeared in the area with a flock of 200 sheep.
Jeez.
Yeah, just gone. Most people who live near the forest are afraid to enter it due to the stories and legends that have been handed down. They believe that those who visit the site will never return back home. Many of the locals who have been brave enough to venture into the forest complained of physical harm, including rashes, nausea, vomiting, migraines, burns, scratches, anxiety, and other unusual sensations. This dense forest first gained notoriety in the late 60s when a biologist named Alexandru Sift snapped several amazing photos of a flying disc-shaped object in the sky above the forest. On August 18, 1968, a military technician named Emil Barnia captured a famous photograph of a saucer flying over the Hoia-Baciu Forest. And then, in the 70s, the area was a hotbed for UFO sightings and unexplained lights. People who've entered the forest to this day get inexplicable rashes, or they begin to feel very lightheaded and ill. Moreover, the electronic devices are known to malfunction when introduced into the area. Paranormal investigators have associated these strange malfunctions with supernatural activity. The forest has a reputation for paranormal and unexplained activity, numerous strange events in the land. The most common phenomenon includes the sudden appearance of mysterious orbs of light. All right, I'm going to stop here for a second. Anybody who's familiar with paranormal knows what orbs are. For those who don't know, they're exactly what they say. They're light orbs, and if in pictures they show up as just in random places that you don't see with the naked eye.
Okay.
In video, you'll see them kind of show up and disappear. Now, the tough part with these is you have to be able to tell the difference between a speck of dust or debris and an actual light orb. Pictures are very, very hard to distinguish or to establish, an actual paranormal orb. Just because, again, you won't see the dust with your naked eye, but the minute the flash goes off, the flash is reflecting off of that. So you'll get some pictures where you'll see a ton of them, but if you're outside, you could just have a lot of dust in the air. The only way to really kind of establish that may be a light orb is if it's abnormally shaped. Because a lot of times dust particles will appear almost like perfect orbs. So pictures are difficult to distinguish between the two. Video, however, if you happen to catch one on video, it'll be easier, just because with dust, they tend to appear almost like a snow flurry. They just kind of all over the place. Whereas orbs have almost an intelligent life of their own. They might come in and all of a sudden take a 90-degree turn and then just fade out. any paranormal shows that you watch frequently, you will see them eventually, and usually you'll see them do something that's very, very unorthodox of like a dust particle. Like I said, a lot of them move kind of freely and do their own thing. So I just wanted to throw that out there because between skeptics and believers, orbs are still kind of in that gray area.
Okay.
People also report hearing disembodied female voices breaking the heavy silence, giggling, and even apparitions. There are many cases of people reportedly being scratched. All these things happen with no reasonable explanation. Okay. Now, it's funny those get brought up because I've seen the forest visited in 2 shows that I watch. Ghost Adventures and an old show that used to be on, but you can still, I think, download the episodes on Amazon. Destination Truth. Okay. To me, Destination Truth got the craziest evidence. They had a picture of what they thought was an orb floating through like the branches in the distance, but when they actually snapped the pictures, it looked like a lantern torch. It had like the flame, kind of like the flame curvature. They caught their medic got sick and was throwing up out of the blue, but they found, and I don't know if it's going to mention it here, it might, but I'll bring it up now. There's a dead zone in the forest, like a perfectly circular dead zone where nothing grows, nothing. And the host of this show, which is actually, I'm a huge fan, Josh Gates. He actually has a show on now called Expedition Unknown, but I'm a huge fan. But he had taken samples in the circle and out of the circle, and they found that there are no actual physiological differences between the soils. So I thought it was interesting that nothing grows there. But what they did was they did solo sessions where like one of the team, like at this point, it was like they'd sit out there for about, I think he said about half an hour by themselves with like a little the POV camera where it's watching them. When he was out there, he kept saying that he could hear something moving in the tree line, and that when they, after the show was over, they actually spoke to the hosts from the show Ghost Hunters, because they were both on the same network. So they would kind of collaborate sometimes. He brought stuff on, and when they listened to some of the audio, you can hear a female giggling in the background.
Really?
Yeah, it's creepy. Like, and it's clearly a female. Like all paranormal shows always take into consideration that any kind of recording outdoors can be contaminated by anything. So you have to be very scrupulous about going through what you're hearing. This, though, is clearly, like, you don't hear anything else going on, and then you just hear this kind of like this.
Really?
Yeah. It creeped me out. Well, but that wasn't even the worst of it, right? No. Sometimes I do a pretty good woman. But that wasn't even the worst thing that I thought took place in there. One of their cameramen, his name was Evan, when he did his, he said he kept hearing something like bouncing, like a voice coming from the same voice coming from different points in the tree line. And he had the camera on him, but then they had a second one set up watching where he was sitting, that they could see from their base camp. And in like 2 frames, he gets picked up and thrown back.
Really?
Yes, like in a quarter of a frame, you see him go from a sitting in Indian style on the ground to being as if he was lifted up off the ground. And this is documented. You see it on that episode. And he ends up like 20, 30 feet away from where he was, and he explains like they all went running out there, and it took him a good couple minutes to try to locate him. And he said what it felt like was like a rush of air come down and then just slam into him and almost like throw him. And then he kept saying that his arm was burning, and he had one of those jackets, like, now mind you, this is Romania in the middle of the night. They are bundled up, and his jacket was one of those ones that comes up over part of the hand and buttons just between the thumb and the index. That wasn't undone. They had to undo it to get in there. And when they pulled it back, he had 3 deep scratches in his arm.
Oh, wow.
And again, they get it on camera. And But after that was when their medic got sick, and then Josh basically said, okay, anything more in that circle is by volunteer only. You know, if you want to go, that's fine, but other than that, we're not going out there.
Yeah.
You know, because at that point it was posing a safety issue. But it was very... I was very intrigued by what was going on, but at the same time, I'm sitting there going, oh, I don't know how. I can't honestly say as excited as I am in my head.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I would love to go check that out. I don't know if I would have that same level of enthusiasm if I was out there. I don't know. I could, but I don't know. So, let's see here. Excuse me. Some people believe the forest is a gateway to another dimension. Within the dark interior of the Hoia-Baciu Forest, people have been known to disappear. Strange lights have been seen. The wind seems to speak. Several stories tell of people entering the forest and experiencing missing time. Some have known to be missing for quite some time with no recollection of how they had spent that time. One such story focuses on a 5-year-old girl who wandered into the woods and got lost. The story goes that she emerged from the forest 5 years later wearing the same untarnished clothing that she wore on the day she disappeared, with no memory of what had happened in that interval of time.
Really?
So,
hey, maybe that's where our shadow people are coming from.
Very possible. You know, I actually I would believe that is some sort of gateway, because if you really look too, if you look at some of the darkest, scariest stories in any culture, one thing that does stand out and always does strike a certain amount of fear in people is the forest. Mm-hmm. You know, it's that common thing. Any
unknown.
Yeah. You don't know what lurks out there, especially with the amount of land we don't have like mapped out or even explored.
I get the same way with the ocean.
Oh yeah. That place. Fuck that place.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Another story of the Hoia-Baciu Forest has been telling about the strange paranormal phenomenon which has been recorded and researched for nearly 50 years.
Jeez.
The woods are thought to be notoriously haunted by the Romanian peasants who were murdered here. It is believed that the souls of these tormented ghosts are trapped within the wooded confines of Hoia-Baciu Forest, and that these entities are enraged by their predicament. Visions of these tormented spirits are sometimes observed by terrified travelers. Pairs of haunting, observing green eyes, and a heavy black fog have been observed here. Many people report a feeling of being watched as they travel near the forest's edge. More recently, the paranormal energy of the forest is taking on the form of poltergeists and ghost activity. One paranormal television series, an investigator sitting in this clearing in the forest was scratched and thrown on the ground by an unseen force. People also claim to have seen unexplained bright lights coming from within the woods. Okay, so it doesn't specify, but that's what happened. This paranormal activity seems to be focused on an inexplicable clearing in the forest that is a vegetation dead zone. Okay, so here's that spot I was talking about.
Yeah.
It is nearly a perfect circle in the woods where nothing ever grows. Soil samples have been taken from the site and analyzed, but the results show that there is nothing in the soil that should prevent the growth of plant life. Locals believe that it is the hub for this paranormal activity. They consider this circular plateau deep in the forest to be the home of these ghosts. Photos taken here have revealed hovering shapes and outlines of human forms, further backing up the claims. UFOs, a dead vegetation zone, lights with no logical source, poltergeist activity, EVP activity, and malfunctioning electronics are the documented paranormal happenings of this creepy forest. While some of these stories about this legendary location may be exaggerated, it is hard to ignore the fact that something is going on in this forest that we may not completely understand. This is especially true given the recent well-documented occurrences of unexplained poltergeists. Specialists from around the world are fascinated by the forest. Researchers from Germany, France, the United States, and Hungary have all spent time studying its mysteries. Some have managed to capture bizarre manifestations on film, including faces and apparitions. Some of these images are reportedly seen with the naked eye, others only show up in photos or videos. The mysterious Hoia-Baciu Forest is beginning to compete more and more with the Dracula legend in Transylvania.
Oh.
It has become more famous because of unexplained phenomena which are considered by some as manifestations of the paranormal. Let's see here. Prestigious publications such as Travel and Leisure magazine or BBC have included this among the most interesting forest-haunted areas on the planet, and its fame continues to attract tourists from all walks of life. 2 years ago, which this was written... where are you? There's got to be a date somewhere in here. Hold on. Actually, I think this was written this year. Anyway, 2 years ago, the famous actor Nicolas Cage was shooting a film in Sibiu. Cage came to Cluj specifically to see this mysterious forest. Is Hoia-Baciu haunted? Hoia-Baciu Forest attracts many amateurs of yoga, Wicca, and the paranormal. There are people who believe that within Hoia-Baciu Forest there is a portal that provides access to other universes. There are also countless legends and stories about contact with entities outside our known world occurring here every year.
Wow.
Okay. So it gets out there. It's, I mean, you know, the other article I found pretty much talks about the same thing. So they do talk. Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures had done an episode in there.
Yeah.
And like I said, Destination Truth did one for sure. That's where I first heard about the forest. But there is also a doctor that they had interviewed regarding this, and I guess he's done a lot of research on it. His name is Dr. Adrian Patrut, Adrian Adrian Patrut, Patrut. He actually was interviewed about it in the show Science and Knowledge. Okay. But he also talked a lot about it because I believe he's the leading expert on the forest. But here's actually a picture. I know our listeners can't really see this, but for you,
what's it
there's
on?
a picture. This is it's called the Epoch Times, EPOCH. And the title is Transylvania's Haunted Forest, known as Romania's Bermuda Triangle, Hoia-Baciu. But you can see this picture here of how some of the trees are growing.
Oh, yeah.
They're growing with like a strange curvature, almost like they're being like, if you notice, some of them are bending all in like the same direction. So where it does grow vegetation, it's getting strange things like that.
I wonder what the angle of the sun is and all of that.
Well,
because I know a lot of plants will grow
in that direction.
But I mean,
That's
these
true,
these are like S-shaped
exactly
trees.
And that's the thing. It's like even I don't know that it would even necessarily, like, for like what you're saying, where's the sun coming from? The sun moves, so I don't know that it would necessarily go in that direction. I know there's some people believe that plants will grow in the direction of water or nutrients. But looking at the picture, they're not going. It's not like they're growing in one direction.
Right.
They're just kind of growing in, like, they'll start like to bend one way and they'll curve back around. Excuse me. I can honestly say that if I had an opportunity to visit this place, I would go.
Yeah.
I wouldn't turn this down. I might shit myself, but I would go because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And to be able to just kind of go in there, even if I'm one of the fools who disappears and then comes back, I'm like, where the hell am I? What's going on? I would still go. I mean, it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, you know, this is the sort of stuff that makes me the believer, even though I have like a skepticism. I'm a skeptic believer. That's what I call myself, because I want that proof. Even though I already believe in it, I want that proof. And this is one of those places that I think continues to baffle the science community as to what's going on. It continues to lend credence to the fact that there is more going on in our world than we could ever possibly understand.
That's for damn sure.
And it's just this is just one of those strange places that is, I think, always going to elude science.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how much you try and describe it, you know, how much you try and, you know, debunk what's going on, you might be able to get one or two things debunked, but for the most part, you're not going to be able to get it all. There's just too much going on in this particular location.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend to all of our listeners to actually look into it. If they're looking for something real creepy, look into some of these, any kind of information you can find on this forest, because I guarantee you will find some creepy ass shit.
Yeah.
I do think once we get our Facebook and everything up, for certain stories that we might be able to find clips for, I think we could post some of them up
definitely
for people. Yeah, that's one of those. This is one of those places I would go to in my lifetime.
Yeah,
if given the opportunity.
They're pretty sweet. I mean, it's scary, but
yeah. But how could you? Again, how could you say no to an opportunity like that? Like if I came to you tomorrow and was like, "Hey, don't worry about money. Don't worry about any financial anything. Just pack your shit. We're gonna go spend a couple of days in Romania. One of those days and nights, we're going to this forest."
Hell yeah.
You know, I'll bring the Depends. We'll be fine. I promise. You know,
man pond, son.
Hell yeah.
Oh, he's dead.
So
now.
yeah.
Rest in peace, Big Black.
Yep. So, those are my topics for the evening.
Pretty sweet. What do you got in mind for the future? Anything that we can look forward to?
Well, I'm as we kind of discussed before we started the podcast tonight. I am trying to make sure I want to definitely. I'm going to continue to go the path I'm going as far as supernatural creatures and paranormal. I'm trying really hard to keep it to. The tough part is trying to decipher. I don't really want to say fact from fiction.
Yeah.
Per se, I think more proven myth and unexplained. I want to bring more of legitimate unexplained mysteries, whether it be locations or creatures or whatnot. Because a lot of the sources I find, they also include suggestions of things like, one of my favorite things is Cerberus, the three-headed hellhound from Greek mythology that guards the gates of Hades. I find a lot of stuff on that. I'm interested in it, but I also know that there's nothing more to that than the Greek mythology of it.
Right.
It's not like, there have been sightings of such a creature. I'm trying to stick to these sorts of things that are actually, we have documented sightings, whether they're believed or not.
Yeah. Real
people stating that I have seen this is what it looks like, this, or locations.
Right.
Something that, if, for example, like this forest, any one of us, anybody, you, me, or any listener can go to this forest. It exists.
Right.
And they can get their own experience there. Similar to the last episode about the Dyatlov incident. That actually happened. It's documented. There's paperwork on it, military and government paperwork on it. That's the stuff I want to try and make sure that I bring to you, the listeners, because I feel that is where the true mystery of our world lies. Is it's the things that people are saying they see. Is it always true? No. But until we actually have physical proof that it does or does not exist, it will continue to be a mystery. And that's the stuff I want to kind of bring forward. So, I'm going to try and start kind of coming to the table from now on with at least two possibilities. I'd like to try and, every episode, I'd like to try and do one paranormal story and one cryptozoological story. So, a supernatural creature. Like an actual physical creature, and then a paranormal situation. Okay. I'd like to start kind of trying to bring one of each of those to the table. It adds a nice little variety, and if somebody's only interested in one, they can at least still kind of hear the other one and maybe kind of enjoy that, maybe get more interested in it. But I'd like to start, like I said. So for me, the toughest part about this is just trying to sift through. The random story that Joe Blow put up online because he wanted to write a scary story
which has been the issue that I've been coming across.
Exactly.
All these stories are
Because I'll be honest, I could sit down, give me half an hour, and I can give you a scary story.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but I wanna bring like legitimate information and legitimate topics that you can also, you the listeners can actually research yourself if you so choose to look further into it because it interests you.
Yeah.
So for me, as far as like the future goes, like I said, I think I might even try and bring in some like start kind of as like on the paranormal aspect, maybe start bringing in some theories, because there are a lot of theories on ghosts, spirits, apparitions, and a lot of them are very interesting. There are actual, there are parapsychologists that exist. There are paranormal engineers that are creating these inventions that they feel, can improve their ability to find proof that ghosts exist.
Yeah.
Maybe bring some of those inventions in, talk about them, talk about the theory behind them.
Yeah.
I would love to get a few more, guests on the show, but
Definitely.
as we've run into thus far, some are very either lackluster or just very flaky. So, we'll continue to try and get more guests on the show, even if it's just somebody to come in and give an alternative perspective or their perspective or opinion or even their own personal experience on it. I've got a few people that I got one or two that I can think of that might actually be willing to come on. It's just a matter of talking to them. But I'd like to, like I said, my biggest focus is bringing stories that have that can be researched, that have a realistic grasp in our world, that again you can legitimately further investigate on your own if you so choose.
Definitely.
So that's my big thing, is I'm just trying to make sure that I don't, whether you believe in what we're talking about or not is not the point. The point is that we're bringing these topics because they interest us and we want to share it, and we want to kind of have a roundtable discussion about these things with you guys, whether you either respond to us or not. But it's one of those things where I don't want it to become one of those things where it's like, oh, well, we just won't talk about that because nobody believes it. No. We put it out there. If you want to believe it, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure I'm giving you guys something that is legitimate, in the sense that, if you wanted to further look into something, you could find information.
There's
something other than just that one posting of it on that one website.
Yeah.
So like I said, it could be a multitude of things, but again, I am gearing it towards trying to make sure we get our paranormal and our cryptozoological sides to it. So like I said, I got nothing specific, but that's what I'm shooting for. That's where I'd like to see.
What about extraterrestrial?
We can do that, but I'll be honest, I'm going to leave that to you, Justin, because aliens bug the shit. I shouldn't say bug. They creep me out to a level, and you know what? I know where it came from. When I was a kid, I saw the trailer for Fire in the Sky, and that scared me so much that aliens just like... I think what it is about the whole extraterrestrial thing, which again, I'm not opposed to talking about it, but you're probably not going to see me pull anything up on it. So if you want aliens, that's on you, buddy. I think it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I don't scare easily. I don't panic easily. I don't get anxiety. I hardly ever get anxiety, only in very specific situations. But one of the things that does tend to completely throw me off kilter is not being someplace where it is impossible for me to find out where I'm at, to find out in a sense, almost like find like a way to find my way home.
Okay.
So let's say
So like if you lose your sense of direction.
Yes, that's the best. Honestly, there it is. I lose my sense of direction, because anywhere down where we are, I know where the cardinal directions are, and I can figure it out, and I know enough about the area and this part of the state that I know that wherever I'm at, and I know where my cardinal directions are, I can find a highway that I know, and from there I can find my way home.
Yeah.
I know my directions here. Even if I pass out in somebody's car and they get us lost.
Yeah.
Once I establish where we're at and an idea, like, okay, if I know what that is, I know this direction's this way, this one's this way. Okay, we need to go this way. We should hit something we know, and then we'll go from there. I'm okay with that. Aliens freak me out because what do they do if they take you? You're in fucking space now, man. There is no direction. There are no cardinal directions. There's nothing. On top of that, you know what? Hey, I'm a kinky guy. Don't get me wrong, but they reach a level that I don't know that I'm quite fond of them doing. So it's just one of those things where I think it's mainly that sense of direction. Because at that point, if let's say
unknown.
It's not even the unknown. Because like I said, the paranormal and supernatural unknown, I am all for. I think it's just the concept of when aliens are involved, it typically means somebody's getting taken, and they're getting taken away, someplace that you have no concept of direction. Even if they took me up into their ship and were like, "Oh no, dude, go ahead, wander around, do whatever you want, it's cool." It's like being in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
There's no way. I can't just look around and figure out where I'm at. I have to hope to God I pick the right direction and go.
Yeah.
You know?
I think some of my favorite alien references or stories are Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone has so many good different, like...
Well, I'll tell you right now, if you are interested in the unexplained and all that stuff, Twilight Zone, by far, the pinnacle of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I can still sit there, when they do, like, the New Year's marathon, I'll sit there all day.
Yeah.
I'll sit there all day freaking with a hangover, just watching them all, just episode after episode after episode. You know, I still remember the one episode. There's two episodes I always still seem to remember regardless. It's the one where the woman is in the hospital and they keep saying that she needs to get her face fixed.
Oh, yeah.
But it's all pig people.
Yeah.
Even though she's gorgeous, it's all these pig people and they're all talking about how just hideous she is. That one, and then the episode where everybody's catering to this kid because it's like everybody and if you live in the town or in town, whatever the kid wants to happen, it happens. So like if he wants you to die, you die.
Yeah.
That one always creeped me out. But yeah, by far. Right. So yeah, if you want aliens, that's you. I'm not bringing aliens in. I'll talk a little bit if it happens to fit into my stuff.
Yeah.
But so if you want aliens, it's all you, man.
All right.
Not my problem. So
I think that'll wrap it up tonight.
I think so. I am Troy.
I'm Justin.
Thank you for listening, and have a good evening.